Fear stops us from achieving our true greatness. Are you a professional woman who is feeling stuck, unmotivated, or burned out? Are you worried about your wellness? Are you letting fear stop you from crushing your goals? If you answered yes to any or all of these, then this is the podcast for you. Dr. Charmaine Gregory, night shift emergency physician, burnout thriver, and wellness champion, along with everyday heroes just like you, will explore how to face fear in our lives and emerge victoriously.
Hello, Fearless Freedom Tribe. Dr. G here again, and we are at the Thrive2G conference live in San Antonio, Texas. And you wouldn't believe who I'm sitting next to. I am sitting next to Dr. Maiysha Clairborne, and she and I have been virtual Facebook friends and been running in the same virtual circles for a number of years.
Oh my God.
And finally met, oh my God, in real life, or IRL, is that what they say? I don't know. 44-year-old talk about IRL. No, what's going on? What's going on? So, there have been some breakthroughs at this conference.
Oh my gosh.
We've had some breakthroughs, and we need to share these breakthroughs with you guys because these breakthroughs are surrounding fear and taking action in that regard. And I'm all about facing fear, punching fear in the face, and like really making it happen. And Dr. Clairborne has learned some amazing things, not only from the speakers, but literally we're sitting in the lawn outside the resort. We're at a very nice 5-star resort.
That's right.
And we were sitting in the lawn just chit-chatting. And she was like, I should start my podcast. And I was like, you should start your podcast. You should get your podcast started off the ground and done. Pull off that Band-Aid.
Right.
And you know what she said? You know what? You're right. I'm going to do it. And you know what she did? She started it.
That's right.
So you want to speak to that?
Yes.
You want to speak to that? You just took that fear and punched it right in the face.
Punched it in the face. Thanks to Dr. G.
I cannot believe it.
Oh my God. So what I didn't tell you, Dr. G, is that this podcast has been a year in the making. A year in the making. So I had been thinking I really wanted to start this podcast. And, I had this radio show, and it was a big commitment. It was a huge commitment. And for me, it was like, if I'm going to start a podcast, I just came off of this big commitment. I feel like I was recovering, I was almost burned out on the radio show. And I was like, okay, am I going to jump into a whole nother big commitment? I know I need to start a podcast, but am I ready for that? And when I talked to you on the lawn, I think what I realized, and then even just from being on various podcasts before, including this one, thanks for having me again, is that, it really isn't as gargantuan of a task as it feels like, or as I thought it was. And so the fact that there's some freedom in when you can schedule and that you could do it anywhere, anytime, and I could do it from my phone, it was just freed me up, And so at first it was and let me tell you guys, to my tribe, to my group, I actually had said that I was going to have a podcast by the end of September. Now, life has happened. I've had several conferences, and I've launched a couple of programs. And I was like, oh my God, it's not going to happen. I don't even know. I'm going to have to go back to my tribe and tell them that I did not fulfill up on my word. And then here you come, Dr. G, sitting with me on the lawn talking about pull off the Band-Aid.
The universe sent me.
Yes. And at first I was like, okay, I'm going to do it by October 8th. And then I'm going to be on another person's podcast the 2nd. I was like, well, maybe I could do it by the 1st. And I was like, you're like, why don't you just do it by the end of the weekend? And I was like,
boom.
Woo. But it was so easy. And I think that's what I loved. It was so easy. And you gave me these step-by-step instructions on how to get it done. And you were giving me all this knowledge. And you know what I said to Dr. G? I said, why aren't you monetizing your knowledge about podcasts?
Okay, she put me out there.
Why aren't you putting this in a course? Dr. G, what you got to say about that?
Oh my goodness, she totally put me on the spot. And I was like, what do I know? Total imposter syndrome, which was addressed during this conference very eloquently. And I was like, I don't know if I know enough. My podcast hasn't been that long enough. Oh my God, it has not been out that long, but guys, we're up to like in the 40s for episodes. And that's been huge because there's something called pod fading. And a lot of times, right around 5-10 episodes, people just drop off. So we made it. We made it past there. So there's like, we're just going to keep going from here on out. So, oftentimes we just don't realize what we know and the things we're passionate about. Like we may have something that we like to do and we read about it and we love gathering the knowledge about it. But it's not until someone actually asks you about it that you realize if you're answering questions about something often, then you're right. You should be doing a course about it.
And here's the other thing about imposter syndrome, and I think it's something that we have both experienced in our industries. It's like, oh well, someone else is doing it, and they're so much more popular than me, or they're so much more experienced than me, or like, what do I know? Like, they were the ones that were my mentors. Well, let me tell you, my mentor is a physician coach, and he would be proud, and he is proud of what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? And we have different tribes, and so like if you're thinking that you have an idea that you want to do something, but you're like, oh my God, but such and such is already doing that, or such and such, oh they're so big and I'm so small. Get over it, because all you need to do is you need to find what your niche is, find who your tribe is, and find what your distinct message is, right? And then just put it out there. And believe me, not only will you find your tribe, but they will find you. They will gravitate to you. Your people will gravitate towards you. So yes, I get that there's this imposter syndrome, but the theme of the day has been ripping off the Band-Aid, right? So rip off that Band-Aid and get it done, and know that your people will come to you. And the people who might have a little bit more experience than you, or have been doing it longer, they will actually be proud of you. They will support you, and that's one thing that I think that both Dr. G and I have realized in this game.
Oh my goodness. I was just like, I forgot to start talking again. That's something. Oh my gosh. But yeah, no, you are so right. And, thank you for that revelation, because just you saying that and you validating that you don't have to be the best in the area. You just have to get in the game. I mean, that's all it is. And so as a consequence, know what they say about goals. They have to be specific, time limited, attainable. Right. And so as a consequence of our conversation, I am pledging, and I've already started the process, to put out a podcast course by the end of October of 2019. So I will be talking more about that.
And I will be supporting Dr. G in making sure this gets done, and supporting her in making sure that, you all got to sign up for this thing. She's got so much knowledge. She has got so much knowledge, and I'm just grateful. Like I'm telling you, if in a 3-hour conversation, I was inspired to go upstairs to my hotel room and download Anchor and create my podcast logo, and then just a few minutes ago, y'all, record my first podcast episode. We haven't had it been 24 hours yet.
Yay! It feels so cool.
Barely 24 hours. That this chick is the real deal. She is a boss.
Oh, thank you for the uplift. Oh my God, that's awesome. So now that you mentioned that the podcast episode is out, you have to let everybody know what the name of the podcast is.
Yes, so it's the Next Level Physicians Thriving Outside the Box podcast with Dr. Maiysha.
Awesome. And of course, I'll have that in the show notes. So we're going to be, let's see. What can we do? Can we throw out a couple more tips about how you can tear the Band-Aid off?
Yes, absolutely. So I think part of it is, you got to get clear about what you want to do. And then once you're clear about it, you just do it. You surround yourself with the people who know how, and then you just got to take action. Like ripping the Band-Aid off is just ripping the Band-Aid off. If you pull it off too slow, it's painful, and it's lifting the skin up, and it's tearing the skin out. So you just have to be a yes. Be a yes. There's a book called Ready, Fire, Aim. And while I haven't read the book, which is ironic, the concept of the book is you take action, and then you tweak and adjust along the way. you take action, and then you tweak and adjust along the way. And while my first podcast may have not been the optimal podcast, it was a damn good podcast.
I agree.
You know why, right? Because you run it.
I mean, not just that, but I mean, we're like at a conference in a hallway. There's no, people talking in the background. It's not like a studio production or anything.
But it's authentic. And I think that's the other thing that I want to share is like when you have something to say, and believe me, y'all, we all have something to say, and you bring your authentic message, that's all people want is your authentic message. So it doesn't have to be perfect. And I think that's a lot with, doctors and medical professionals as we are in the world, and even lawyers, where that's our sister profession, I consider, it feel like it has to be perfect. And it doesn't. It just has to be done.
Exactly. Done is so much better than waiting for it to be perfect. Oh my goodness. Failure to launch is like a big deal. And, it's funny because, we're talking about like, putting ourselves out there and facing fear. And, we were talking about launching this course, and you were talking about launching your podcast. But then, what came up was that in a week, I'm going to be on a speaker panel for She Podcast Live, which is going to be an awesome podcast conference in Atlanta, which is where you are.
Yes.
And, I just think about like, well, I did have a moment when I saw the call to action where I was like fearful, y'all. I literally was like fearful. I was like, they're not going to choose me because my podcast is too baby. What am I offering? And, the first thing you said was, why would they not choose me? Why would they not choose you? And, I had to rip off a Band-Aid for that situation and just send the thing in and just press enter. And they chose me, so that's what happens. That's what happens. So, almost every single time that you have that feeling, that you feel the fear, you should do it. Why should you do it? Because that is always a time when you're going to experience the most growth.
Yeah, it's so funny. Two favorite quotes of mine. One is Jack Canfield. He says, Chicken Soup for the Soul guy, feel the fear and do it anyway. Feel the fear. The fear doesn't go away. The fear never goes away. Every time I launch a new course, a new mastermind, before I get up on stage to speak, I feel those butterflies. I feel that fear. But you feel the fear and you do it anyway. And, there's one of my clients once told me this quote by Dr. Maya Angelou: if you're not have a little pee running down your leg, you're not playing a big enough game. So fear is actually a motivator. Use it as an indicator that you are you're taking the right step.
Dreaming big enough.
That's right. That's right. You awesome. Gotta dream big. And if you think you're dreaming big, dream bigger.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. So many pearls, y'all. So, and we've done this before, but I don't think she realized we're going to do it again, because every time we come on the podcast, you got to do it. We got to do fill in the blanks.
Oh, I forgot about fill in the blanks. Ooh. Totally forgot.
So you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, all right. So to me, fearless freedom means
just doing it.
Awesome. If I am fearless, I will.
If I am fearless, I'll feel the fear and I'll take action anyway.
Awesome. And I know you have this innate because you have a battle cry. So what is it? Let's hear it.
What is my battle cry?
You have a battle cry?
I know I have a battle cry, but I totally forgot that we were going to do this. Okay. Oh, yes. My battle cry is we have got to take our profession back.
Love it.
Yes.
So that was awesome. Thank you so much for taking time out of the conference to be on the podcast. I really appreciate it. And thank you for the push to get the course started. So more to come. You guys have to check out Dr. Clairborne's podcast, and we'll have more information in the show notes because we're about to blow things up, and y'all need to be on board.
That's right. And thank you for having me on again, and for your inspiration, for inspiring me to get to work on this podcast. And I'm just excited. I'm excited for what you're doing. I'm excited for what I'm doing. I'm excited for what this conference has brought forth. Thrive2G, y'all. You got to be here next year.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us today on this journey. Fear is all around us. It strives to stop us from achieving our greatness. We have the tools to be overcomers. By sharing our stories, supporting each other, and doing self-reflection, we can do this. If you found value in this conversation today, please be sure to subscribe to and share this podcast with your friends. By going to your favorite podcast platform, leaving a review and a 5-star rating, you will help to get the word out about it. And that is much appreciated. Thanks again for spending time with us. I appreciate your time and your attention. It is my hope that you will punch fear in the face today and that you will be strong, be brave, and unleash your greatness.